Okay, welcome everyone. Amazingly on time. Okay, as we said, this is our English, this is predominantly an English class. So although we do have a lot of people from all over the world, so we started on time, which is something novel. I just want to say thank you to our anonymous donor who sponsored this. So thank you if you're here. I'm not sure if you're here, but thank you. I think everyone's grateful. This is a great opportunity for all of us. So we appreciate that. Yeah, this course is literally something that has only been available, only possible over the past year. This course couldn't have existed a year ago. The way I see it, education, which has been going on for thousands of years, cleanly divides into two periods. There was the period before AI, and then there's the period after AI. So we've used AI in every facet of this class, which means we've basically created something that just couldn't have been even a year ago. So it's very exciting. It really is very exciting. It's the first of its kind that I know of. I'll explain to you how and why that makes such a difference in a moment. I'm also going to try. We've got such a varied audience, so I'm going to try my hardest to not use any Hebrew terms at all. So for the film ones amongst us, I apologize if I sound weird, and if I slip, which I'm sure I will. Yeah, please correct me. I'm sorry if you didn't understand what I said, but I would try my hardest to keep all to keep a complete English to keep with a completely English vocabulary. Okay, so before I get into why this class is so different and what makes it such a novelty, I just want to try and explain a Hebrew word. After that, what I just said, we're not going to use any Hebrew. I want to try and explain a Hebrew word which we need to understand, which is called das or dat, dalad ayin tough. And this is really what education is about. Understanding this word will allow us what we're trying to do with our education. Okay, the word das refers to an experience where something that we've learned, an idea or a concept that we've become aware of, actually merges with who we are. And instead of just quoting the idea, we actually become the idea. It's an amazing, it's a uniquely human, talent, if you want to call it that. And this is the goal of education. The goal of education is to merge with good ideas, that the ideas actually become a part of us. They stop being something that we quote and they become something that we are. So for example, okay, a guy or a girl who learns the idea of it's all for the best. Okay, everything's for the good. Somehow it will always be good. Now I can quote that idea to you. I've understood the idea, and I can quote that idea to you. It's all for the best. But it's only when that idea has somehow penetrated me, has actually merged with me, that that's my actual reaction to everything that happens. It's not just that I'm telling myself it's that that's how I actually feel. No matter how bad it is, I know that it's all for the best. So it's like the transition of what we could say in English, maybe from understanding something to knowing something, to becoming kind of intimately bound with a piece of information, which is like when we stop quoting the idea. It's the difference between, and this is really what a teacher is. So you can ask the question, what's the difference between a teacher and the lady or the gentleman at the Ben Gurion information desk? They're both giving over information, though. What's the difference? We know somehow there's a very deep difference. The difference is that the lady at the information desk at Ben Gurion is giving over information that really has nothing to do with her. A real teacher is actually giving of themselves to you. they're not really giving you information. Although they are giving you information, they're really giving you themselves. That's what makes an effective teacher. That's really what teaching is. So the process of learning is actually receiving that information and allowing it to kind of merge with us and become part of us. So that's how we see the world. Like we would never dream of quoting our kindergarten teacher when we're talking to somebody about 2 times 2 equals 4. That's just how we see the world. That's not something that's separate from us. That's information that has become integrated into who we are. Is that clear? Someone click on, just give me a thumbs up if they get that. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do with this class, is we are trying to become some really important information. Okay. So how do you do that? How do you become information? Hoping it's good information. How do you become it? So there's really 3 ways. Okay. The first way, which is the most important way, is review, which everyone hates. Okay. Reviewing information is not just the concept of remembering it. That's almost a kind of a side point. Reviewing information is the process of getting the information into who we are, integrating the information, becoming one with the information. Okay. There's also teaching the information, discussing it with others, etc. And there's acting on the information as well. I discovered about maybe 15 years ago a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's written by a man called Stephen Covey. And I wasn't such a reader at that time. Nowadays I read a lot. I found it in my parents' house and I asked my dad if I could take it. He said yes. So I took it back to Israel and I finished it. And I realized that the information in this book was something else. I'd never come across such information. And by the time I got to the end of the book, I remember distinctly what I did. As I got to the end of the book, I'd been preparing for this as well, by the way. So as I got to the end of the book, I closed the book, and just like I was turning over the page, I went right back to the beginning again and opened the book from the start. And I went through the book. I don't know how many times I've read the book now. Definitely more than 6 or 7 times, maybe 10 times. I have no idea. And I realized that after I'd started going through the book again and again, the ideas started merging with me, and they were amazing ideas that it meant that I started seeing the world in a completely different way. And I was speaking to people, and it was clear that they didn't know these ideas, like ideas that after I'd learned them, I wondered how I could ever have, bumbled through the world without them. But the important thing was not that I had just read the ideas. The important thing was that the ideas started to kind of merge with me. And from then, for all these years until now, I've been trying to work out a way, because I realized that I'm a kind of anomaly in the fact that I can read a book more than once. And from my experience now, it seems that for people to even read a book once is a stretch. To ask them to read a book twice, yeah, to ask them to read a book 4 times, that's absolutely unheard of. 6 times, they think you're absolutely mad. So I realized that instead of me getting frustrated with this is just how it is. So I've been kind of scratching my head for years. How can I help people kind of do this due diligence kind of thing, this hard work that people people don't do? So that's where this course comes in. That's where AI comes in. And that's really what this course is about. This course has taken the information that is basically packed into the 7 habits, and it's been updated. It was written about 50 years ago, so we've updated it for our generation. It's being given over now in a way that if we just follow this protocol that's going to be very simple and kind of almost automatic, hopefully, and according to all the feedback that we've received so far, we will actually merge with these ideas, and it will transform the way we see this world. and this world will become a much maybe friendlier place. I don't know exactly. It will that's why it's called the blessed life, because life will start to feel more full of blessing, if you want to say it like that. Okay, so I just want to kind of rewind about 7, 8 years ago. I started a school of photography. Some of you might know that I was a photographer many years, and I started a school of photography, and we realized it was probably 2017, and it was when all the online learning thing was really taking off, and we really needed to kind of give ourselves a kind of an edge, an advantage over all the competition. And after reading all the literature, we worked out that what we had to do is we had to offer some kind of guarantee. Okay, that was what was going to give us a kind of the edge. So I went all out and I created a not only 100% guarantee, we actually created 110% guarantee. You go to our website at zero2pro.website, you'll see it slapped all over the website. We're basically promising that if you follow our instructions, you get to the end of the course. If for any reason whatsoever, yeah, you don't need to give us a reason, you just want to ask your money back, we'll give you all your money back plus 10%. And the course is worth $1,500. What I wanted to do was to make people feel so confident that they would jump in. And no one's ever, we've had over 2,000 students, no one's ever asked for their money back. We were forced into creating a system that really got the ideas into the people's, into the students' kishkas, if you like, into the fabric of who they were. So they kind of became photography as opposed to it was just something they were learning and doing. Okay, so what we've tried to do is we've tried to kind of move the model, the Zero to Pro learning model, into this course, which is about learning basically how to deal with life. And it seems, Baruch Hashem, that we've been successful. So I'm just going to give you over the main points of how this works. Did everybody pick up? Do people have this booklet? Give me a thumbs up if they got the book. Okay, so some people have got the book. It was kindly sponsored by our anonymous sponsor. Thank you. If you didn't, you can get the PDF on the description to the WhatsApp group, and otherwise it will be everywhere. You'll be able to find the PDF. This is an intrinsic part of the system. Okay, I don't know about you, I hate taking notes. I can't sit in a class and take notes at the same time. I feel like I'm either in a class or I'm taking notes. And the problem is that if I'm in the class and I didn't take notes, when I come out of the class, I almost forget immediately what I learned. So what we did was we've created this book, and everything that I'm going to be saying is written up in beautiful essay form. So you don't have to take notes and you can refer back to this book. And it's written much better than I could ever write it, because everything I wrote, I put through ChatGPT and asked it to make it engaging and simple and clear, and then I'd polish it again and again and again. So it's much, much easier to read than something that I would have written personally, hopefully much more engaging as well. So we've got this really put together book where everything is summarized. You've got key points, you've got loads of pictures to keep our very modern minds engaged. We've got tables, summaries, lists, there's role plays, there's places for notes. It's really a very kind of thorough coursebook. Everything's completely systemized. It's lean. We've cut away everything that isn't necessary. It's practical. There's rules. We've even created a soundtrack, which means you've got 9 songs, and it sounds like, yeah, like sucky, like who cares, but the music's really fantastic. In fact, it's playing in our house the whole time. My kids have memorized all the words as well. So now to review all of these very foundational, fundamental ideas that we're going to be learning, you're actually going to have a soundtrack that's upbeat and great, and you're going to love it, and it will allow you to go over the ideas again and again. And we found that to be super helpful. Now, one couple more things until we get into the actual meat of the class. Okay, there's every day there's what's called SEEDS. Okay, SEEDS, which stands for Steady Engagement Ensures Deep Scripting. Okay, what these seeds are is their digital content that we drip to you 3 times a day. I think it's 6 o'clock. It's going to be on UK time. It's going to be 6 a.m., 12 p.m., and I think 6 p.m., something like that. They are engaging, fun, very powerful little digital, whatever you want to call them, nuggets, videos, images, little text, little emoji contest here, very engaging things. And this is really where the deep work of the Blessed Life takes place. We'll do the class each week that lasts about an hour. And then over the week, we're going to be dripping to you this very engaging content that we want you to watch and interact with an emoji. It's a broadcast only thing, so you're not going to get driven mad by everybody saying all kinds of funny stuff. Yeah, but this is really where the magic takes place. And if we spend those minute and a half just watching these teeny little videos, these ideas just go deeper and deeper, and it actually changes how we see the world. It's really quite amazing, and it's really been working. Things like, yeah, there's not only like very powerful little videos that we've made, but little snippets from like Oprah Winfrey and Arnold Schwarzenegger and all kind of Jordan Peters and all kinds of very like, you know, out there, you know, things that you wouldn't expect from a regular Torah class that just keep us very engaged, and it's been really making a difference to people. There's also a tiny little test every morning, just a 2-question test again, that you'll get the results immediately. Again, it just keeps you engaged. And then there's the daily reading that goes along with the course book that either you have or that you will get your hands on shortly. Okay. So that was just all an introduction. Okay, so the course begins here. This is really the journey. We need to understand 2 words super clearly: principles and paradigms. What the Blessed Life is about aligning our paradigms with principles. Okay, so what's a principle? A principle is a description of reality. A principle is how it is. So, for example, a great example of a principle is if you put your foot down on the gas. Oh, sorry, I can say in English. If you put your foot down on the accelerator, yeah, and assuming that the brake isn't on, then your car will move forward. And like, you're like, yeah, okay. That's a principle. It's just a description of how things are. Gravity is a principle. In physics, a principle is called a law. Yeah, so gravity is a principle, meaning that if a person steps off the edge of a building, they'll fall down. Now that's like, okay, that's, you know, kind of obvious, but think about it like this. You can't talk to a principle. You can't bargain with a principle. You can't argue with a principle. Try and have a discussion with gravity. Just ask, just this one time, please, gravity, just this one. 80 years is fine. Just this one time, let me step off the building and let me be fine. There's no one to talk to. Principles are just how it is. And once we start understanding actually some very subtle principles in life, we'll start seeing why it is that we're actually facing so much frustration. Because there are certain things that just don't bend. Like a great example of a principle that's a little more like close to the heart than gravity is the principle of trust. There's a principle of trust. The only way you can be trusted is by being trustworthy. You can't bend that. If you don't hold to your word, people won't trust you. And it's just as, what's the word? It's just as there's a good word for it. I can't think of the word. It's just as monolithic as gravity. You can't trust someone who isn't trustworthy. What about respect? you can't trust someone who isn't respectable. That's another principle. There's no way around that. And you can whine and whinge and beg and plead. But if you're not being respectable, people, not that they won't trust you, they can't respect you. They can't. It's just as it's just as unreasonable as gravity. Just as unreasonable as gravity. It's like there's a story in the idea, everyone's heard of this idea of what's called Nahamadika Sufa. There's this idea that the Ramchal brings in one of the rabbis from a couple of 300 years ago, that God saw, after he made the world, that he was giving all the souls lots of pleasure, and they were kind of embarrassed. And it was called, this idea was called bread of shame, because they were receiving pleasure without having worked for it. And so Hashem said, oh, this isn't great. We have to redo the whole system so they can earn their reward. And you're like, wait, Hashem, why didn't you just make it that they can just enjoy free pleasure? And we learn from this immediately. This is one of the first things we learn, is that Hashem himself, so to speak, humbled himself before his own principle. The principle of you can't get something for free. If you get something for free, it doesn't feel particularly good. It doesn't feel anywhere near as good as if you earn it yourself. And Hashem, so to speak, in that sense, he bowed to his own principle. That's an amazing idea. That really shows us that these ideas are not something that we can bargain with. This is just how it is. We've got one option, is to humble ourselves to principles. We have to find out how the world works, and we have to humble ourselves to how the world works. A few people are able to kind of, like in art, the idea of breaking, you're allowed to break all the rules. Yeah, that's true. Only once you know all the rules. Only somebody who's learned all the rules is allowed to break all the rules. Otherwise, you're just playing around. Okay. Can we just quickly, just for just a couple of moments, can everybody just write into the chat a principle? And I'm just going to read them out, just what they think, what pops into mind immediately. A principle, something that you can't fudge. A law in the world that just can't be fudged. And I'll just read them out. You don't have to write who said it. I'll just read them out as you. Loyalty, absolutely. Excellent. You can't fudge that. Honesty, yes, exactly. Giving, if you don't give, yeah. Law of gratitude, honesty, truth, morals. If I overeat, I will gain weight. Perfect. Can't be pushed off. Integrity, smiles, math, yeah, faith. You can't be loved without being lovable. Yes, or at least it's much harder. Time. Everyone understands exactly this. It's like it's a funny thing, because it's like, to articulate such a thing is just, it just seems a bit unnecessary. But once you start thinking about it, you're like, wow, yeah, that really, I hear that. This is important. Okay. So that's principles. What's paradigms? Paradigms is the exact opposite. Paradigms is how I see the world. You could look at your glasses as paradigms. Paradigms are they're like the lens through which you see the world. So some people have a lens, for example, you can have a lens that says, I'm not enough. A lot of people have got a lens like that. I'm not enough, or there isn't enough. That's another lens that people can wear, a scarcity lens. Or you can wear another lens that says, I don't trust anyone. Like, my mum and dad are here, so I can say this, but my mum and dad taught me, one of my dad's quotes that I'll always remember is, basically everyone's good. I grew up in a house where I learned, and I got given over a mindset that says basically everyone's good. And I'm 46 now, and I've been in business for, 25 years. I've dealt with thousands of clients, and I agree with my dad 100%. And that's how I see the world. I see the world as maybe if I grew up in a different neighborhood, in a different place, I wouldn't think like that. Maybe it would be silly if I did think like that if I grew up in certain neighborhoods. But in the place where I grew up, in the life that I've had, I see the world now in a very trusting way. And that's a paradigm, because that might be, it might not be. It depends. Yeah. Another paradigm would be there's enough for everyone. So when you win, that doesn't like eat me up. It's not hard for me. In fact, if I think there's enough for everyone, then I actually feel really good when you win, so to speak. You could have the opposite paradigm, which is like the scarcity paradigm, where you think life is this fight for scarce resources. And that means that when you win, somehow, even though you're across the sea and it really does make a difference, I somehow lost. And I feel like that's easy. Paradigms, not only are they the way we see the world, they actually run through all of our life. So a person who doesn't feel enough, let's say they grew up in a lot of people have this paradigm, they don't feel enough, yeah? Their entire life, every interaction, from when they go to the grocery stores to buy the eggs, to where they're marrying off their child, to where they're on a plane on holiday, that paradigm is with them all the time, and it affects all of their behaviors. It's amazing. Some paradigms are extremely, extremely deep. Other paradigms can be less deep, but paradigms that can be extremely, extremely deep. And the goal of our class is to align paradigms with principles. That is what the blessed life is. So let's plug it back into the driving scenario. Yeah. The principle is that when you put your foot on the accelerator, your car goes. Okay. Now, if my paradigm is that I get into my car, I sit down, and I start to will my car to move, and I'm really willing it to move, I want it to move so badly, yeah? That's going to be extremely frustrating. Extremely frustrating. That's called a bad paradigm, a paradigm that is not aligned with a principle, or a principle that's not aligned with a paradigm. So that's kind of funny, yeah? But what about if my paradigm is that if I nag you enough to respect me, then you'll respect me? That's a paradigm that a lot of us have. Or if I nag you enough to go out with me, then you'll want to go out with me. Or if I complain about the fact that you don't trust me, that you'll trust me. That's a paradigm that's not aligned with the principle. Because the only way of getting trust, as we said, is becoming trustworthy. The only way of being respected is becoming respectable. Now, this is really this is a very difficult thing to hear, but we have to hear this, is that this also works with ourselves, is that if we can't trust ourselves, then we can't, if we are not acting in a trustworthy way to ourselves, we won't be able to trust ourselves. If we're not acting in a respectable way in our life, in our private life, you won't be able to respect yourself. And if you can't trust yourself and respect yourself, then we don't have a chance at loving ourselves, because without respect and trust, there is no love. And this is really the foundation, how I understand it, of this kind of pandemic of depression and anxiety that's sweeping through the Western world, because we're not generally acting in a trustworthy way to ourselves, in a respectable way in our inner lives. And then we're looking for all these different ways of how to trust ourselves and how to respect ourselves. But it's like, I give a very excuse the analogy, but the idea of taking a pellet out of the urinal and covering it in chocolate, that's what it's analogous to. If we're not acting in a trustworthy way unto ourselves, then we can't trust ourselves. It's just that's a principle. There's no way of bending that. There's no discussion to be had with that. Doesn't matter all the meditations, all the affirmations, all the drugs, whatever it is. If we're not trustworthy, we won't trust ourselves. And if we can't trust ourselves, we can't respect ourselves. And if we can't respect ourselves, then we can't love ourselves. And if we can't love ourselves, then we can't be ourselves. And that's really what Journey to the Blessed Life is about. Journey to the Blessed Life is about becoming ourself through building self-trust and self-respect by playing the rules of the game. Because there's rules of the game and we have to play the rules. We have to play by the rules. Okay. So I'm gonna just do a screencast for a moment and we're gonna go through what the journey involves. Just give me a moment. Okay, does everyone see this? I need to see everybody here. Everyone give me a thumbs up if they see the image here. Yeah, everyone sees it? Great. Okay. I'm gonna make it look bigger. Okay. This is, yeah, we all see. Great. And everyone can see my cursor as well. Good. Okay. So this is our journey. Okay. And I just tell you today, just before we gave the class, I added in needy, not needy, needed, and needless. That's in the merit of our class today that came down. So okay, so this is the journey to the blessed life. This tree, the journey is extremely systemized. It's very, very organized, and it's very sequential. Okay, we begin here. This is the place. This is pre-self. This is where we're just so to speak, a graphic in the game. We haven't actually chosen to live life. Okay, live life is the decision that I'm not going to be a victim in my life. I'm going to be a participant in my life. So to speak, I'm going to live life and not be lived by life. Before we've made that decision that we're going to actively participate in life, which means, the way Covey said it, is to proact as opposed to react. Yeah, like an animal reacts, a human being can proact, meaning they can determine and decide how they're going to act to any given stimulus. Yeah, that is the beginning of our journey. So before we started to live life, we're in a situation what we call of being dependent, meaning I don't carry my own weather. I'm dependent on the weather. I'm dependent on the economy. I'm a victim of my past. All the things that happened to me and are happening to me and will happen to me dictate how I behave. That's called being dependent, and that's called being needy. And that is before we've even begun our journey. Okay, the first step of our journey is to take responsibility for our own behavior, to take responsibility for our own life, and that can't be taken for granted. That isn't something that people just do. That's something that really has to actually be actively chosen. So that's live life. That's the first step. This section here, the roots of the tree, is what we say is called between man and himself. This is your relationship with yourself. Okay. After this is in a good, healthy place, then we can move on to our relationship with others. It's between man and his fellow, because you can't have a real relationship with another person if you don't have a real relationship with yourself. Everyone understands that. We'll explain that in more detail as we go through the class, but everyone understands that intrinsically. And the final stage of this class is actually your relationship with God, or you could call that reality if you don't believe in God. That between man and reality, between man and God, or between woman and God as well, is that once we have a relationship, once we can have a relationship with other people, meaning that other people are real to us, and again, that also can't be taken for granted, then we can move into the next level of reality where we can actually have a relationship with reality itself. Okay, so that's going from what we call dependent to independent, to interdependent, and finally to transcendent, which transcendent doesn't mean we're now aloof from the world. It means that we're actually in the world in a more profound way than we can ever imagine, when everything actually becomes one. Everything starts to make sense. All the pieces kind of fit together. Okay, so from the decision to live life, this is really the idea of building self-trust. Okay, once we've decided to live life, now the greatest how do you say that in English? The greatest preventive, the thing that prevents us the most from moving forward is arrogance. Okay, and we're going to define arrogance not as some kind of haughty feeling that I'm better than everybody else. Arrogance is going to be defined as a kind of egoic wall that we build around ourselves that protects our identity, and that makes growth impossible. So be humble is usually the most difficult class for people. Yeah, for me as well. But it's essential. It's essential for growth. Once we've kind of broken the walls, or at least become aware of the walls, and we're able to now grow, now we need to work out what we're here to do. Okay, and that's know your mission. Know your mission is getting clarity on why we are here. And the amazing thing is, even though, you might think that question of, why am I here is a big question, which it is, but we actually have the answers. We actually were given the answers inside. All we need is we're going to learn a couple of very important kind of techniques, maybe you could call them, that are going to allow us to really connect with the intrinsic reason for why we got created. You could say, in a sense, it's know your mission is transiting from what I am to why I am. And that's this is an incredibly important part of the journey. Once you know what you're here to do, now we have to do it. And do what matters has never been more essential in our generation, where a person can literally pass away their life. They could look back in 50 years from now, and they could see their browsing history of their YouTube shorts and their Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and whatever, and realize that nothing that really mattered got done. I don't think there's ever been a time in the history, there's for sure never been a time in the history of mankind where do what matters has ever been more important. Okay, now we're doing what matters. The next stage is recognizing the other. Recognizing the other is when we transition from becoming someone that we trust ourselves to moving into the realm of shared trust, the realm of healthy relationships. So once we've got the foundation, and these are the roots of a good character, now we're able to move into the world of relationships. Recognize the other. Again, it's going to sound funny, but I'm sure you'll agree with me here, is the idea of looking at people as independent individual beings, not in context of me. I'm not going to look at people in a way of, well, how do you fit into my life? I'm going to start looking at you as, well, how can I fit into your life? How can I appreciate you as a person unto yourself, as opposed to in context of me? Okay. Once we're kind of moving in that direction, same team mindset is going to present us with a way of thinking that is going to allow us to interact with everyone on a day-to-day basis, whether it's your children or your parents or your brothers and sisters or your employees or your employers or your clients or whatever it is, in a way that will be productive, and Covey calls it win-win. We'll be looking for we're looking at everyone as if we're on the same team. Okay. After that comes listen silently, then speak clearly. This class is the foundation of healthy and effective communication. How do we listen? And then how do we speak, which is the definition of communication. This is an extremely practical class. In a sense, this listen silently, then speak clearly is kind of where the rubber hits the road. It's the relationship version of do what matters. It's where these link up with each other. Listen something and speak clearly links clearly with do what matters. And Shalom Uvracha isn't so much a principle, it is the outcome or the outgrowth of what happens when we are living all of these principles. When we have moved from being dependent to being independent to being interdependent. Interdependent could be described as 1 + 1 = 3. It means I'm selfless and effective enough now to be interacting with other people where 1 + 1 = 3. The sum of the parts is greater than the parts themselves. Shalom Uvracha, which translates as peace and blessing, could be described as 1 + 1 = 1. It's when everything comes together, and the way of saying it is reality, personality, and behavior are all aligned. And when that happens, which is basically like what we said, principles and paradigms aligning, because paradigms, the way we see the world, is how we behave and interact with the world. So when reality, personality, and behavior align, yeah, we've entered into a kind of heavenly divine experience of life. And that's called transcendent, and that's called needless. Imagine going from being needy to being needed. That's enough. Yeah, that's fantastic. Imagine feeling needed as opposed to needy. And then imagine going beyond that to the point where you become needless, and you find your place in the fabric of reality. You find your, so to speak, your pixel on the screen. That's a truly divine experience, and that's called transcendent. Okay, let me just switch back a moment. Just stop shit. Okay, we're back. Is there any questions? No. Okay, so we're gonna finish off. I'm gonna play. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna play our song. It's the 3 weeks right now, so we're not listening to music. So we've actually made an instrumentless, an a cappella version of the song. And this is just to give you a taste, even though without the music, it's still very good. I'm gonna play this now, and then we'll finish off. It's about a couple of minutes. One moment. I'm gonna share my screen once again. And just give me a thumbs up when you hear this. Share sound. Video. Okay, can everyone see the video? Just give me a thumbs up. Okay, if you've got your booklet, the words are on page. Excuse me. The words are on page 28. Okay, if you don't have your booklet, you can find it in the. Maybe I'll quickly put up the. One moment, I'll put up the link to the. I'll put up the link right now to in the chat. Oh, it's on the share. Okay. If you don't have the book, it's there. It's on page 28. And we'll listen to this. Just give me a thumbs up that you hear it okay when it starts. Remember, there's no music.
Principles, they're the truth, the core. They've been here forever. They're like the floor, like gravity keeps us on the ground. They're unchanging, they're profound. Paradigms, oh, they're how we see. The mental maps of reality. They shape our thoughts, they guide our view, but they might need a change or two. Principles are laws, they never break. Paradigms are lenses we must remake. Align them right and it'll all make sense. A blessed life is the consequence. trust and respect, they can't be faked. No shortcuts, no deals to make. If you want to be trusted, you must keep your word. If you want to be respected, it must be earned. A faulty paradigm will cause untold pain, like steering a ship through a storm in vain. They're not hard to see, but they are to accept. 'Cause change in your view takes courage and depth. Principles, laws, they never break. Paradigms are lenses we must remake. Align them right and it'll all make sense. A blessed life is the consequence. Learn it deep, let it grow. Act it out, let it show. Study, do, and then repeat. That's how success becomes complete. Don't fight the law, don't twist the frame. Life's not a trick, it's not a game. See the truth and fix yourself. Align your heart with something else. Principles are laws, they never break. Paradigms are lenses we must remake. Align them right and it'll all make sense. A blessed life is the consequence. So be courageous and check your lens. Real change begins where comfort ends. Principles don't yield, paradigms must be true. That's the secret, now it's up to you. Principles are laws, they never break. Paradigms are lenses we must remake. Align them right and it'll all make sense. A blessed life is the consequence.
Now there's music, but there's no music. I'm just going to close this now.
Life is the consequence.
Okay, everyone sees me again. So, ladies and gentlemen, the class begins. Oh, sorry, the class begins in tomorrow morning, basically. Okay, we are going to be sending you. Please interact with the WhatsApp messages. Okay, please give the thumbs up. Just interact with them. I'll tell you. I'll give you a good analogy for what it's going to be like in when they do charity pushes. Yeah, they sometimes give you like the matching, you know, the idea where you give $1 and someone else matches it, so it makes $2. So one time there was one that I did where they told it was a quadrupling. So I dug deep because I knew that if I gave 200 shekels, somebody else would give 800 shekels. Yeah. So this is like that, but maybe times 100. Putting in a minute 3 times a day to these teeny little things that we're going to send you, and they're fun as well. You'll enjoy them, but they're different to all the other shtuyot that we're getting pushed on us all day, every day on our telephones and everything. Is different. Yeah, we're not trying to get something from you. We're trying to help you. So interact with them. And after the first couple of days, it won't be like, oh, this is annoying me at all. And the amount of growth that we can make will be exponential. It will be really amazing. So anyway, I'm looking forward to being on this journey with everybody. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to sign out.